What's up, guys? Nick from the Average Biker Garage, back with another episode of the Average Biker Podcast. Today's guest, I'm so stoked about this. It's none other than Josh Boggs, owner and operator of Steel City Blacksmithing. If you aren't familiar with Josh's work, you need to go check it out. This kid is doing big things at such a young age, like ridiculous things. I'm really excited to see what he can produce in the next few years. I am so stoked about this interview. I'm going to keep this intro short and sweet. You guys know what to do. Go check out YouTube, Instagram, all of Josh's links. They're all down in the show notes. So, without further ado, here is Josh Boggs, aka Steel City Blacksmithing. Awesome. All right, bud. So, go ahead and introduce yourself, your name, age, and location.
So my name is Josh Boggs. I am 29 years old and I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Well, Tarentum, Pennsylvania, close to Pittsburgh.
Dude, I can't get over the fact that you're 29 years old. We
Yeah.
were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I think you said that, and I was like, "Really? You're a baby?"
Yeah, I've been pretty obsessed with metalwork since I was young, so I've been messing around with stuff for a long time now.
Well, that's good. It's an awesome skill to have.
Yeah, yeah. I got my first welder I think when I was 8 or 9. It was a Chicago Electric 90 amp stick welder. I
Wow.
wanted to be like Jesse James watching the 2000 big tire chopper craze and the biker build offs and all that. And
Yeah. Well, with you being that young, you remember Motorcycle Mania and the biker build-offs and stuff?
oh yeah, Uh, funny enough, Indian Larry died in 2004, so I would have been 10. And I remember the day my dad told me Indian Larry died. No
Wow.
bullshit. Yeah. Cause like I remember watching him on all the biker build offs and shit.
Yeah, he was unique to say the least.
Yeah, he was a legend, that's for sure. He'd gone too soon. But
Right. I guess
he-
he only built like 6 or 7 bikes himself.
yeah,
Like,
he had I don't know, it seemed like everything he always did, he kind of pushed the buck. Like the Chain of Mystery, that was a wild bike. And the
yeah.
Twisted Down tubes are, I mean, they're still iconic.
Is that kind of where you got your inspiration? We'll get into your blacksmithing and stuff, but is that kind of where you got your,
Um, yes, I guess, and no. It's kind of a long story. I mean, I could dive into it if you want.
oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Alright.
All right. Well, this, you said you listened to a couple of my podcasts. So, it's pretty motorcycle centric. I try to be at least.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So, when did you get into writing? How did you get into writing?
Well, um, when I was 3 or 4, my old man had a XR 200 and dirt bike, and I started riding on his gas tank, and I remember riding on that, and when I was young. I remember him always telling me, "You can't turn the handlebars," and I would refuse to get off it. I'd fall asleep on it, so he'd be trying to hold me up in between his like forearms. But that's where it all started. And then when I was 6, I got a quad, rode quads, dirt bikes, raced motocross for a while. Uh, Ended up selling my bike. I went to the Power Sport Institute in Ohio. It's like a MMI, and I went for motorcycle technology. I was a car mechanic. Went to Votech in high school. Got all my certs and my inspection license, all that shit. And I always worked on my own dirt bikes because didn't have money to pay somebody to fix it, so it was either sat broke or you figured it out. And I got into lifted Jeeps and trucks and turbos and fast cars and
Spoken like
that.
a true Western PA.
Oh yeah, of course. Of
So,
course, spent a lot of time in the strip mine, four wheeling.
so you went to a Votech school over in Ohio?
Well, I went to a vocational school while I was in high school.
Hmm?
Beatty Career Center. I went for auto tech, and I knew how to work on cars. My first job actually was at a full service gas station pumping gas, and I started working on cars a little bit there, helping out, doing little stuff, and then went to a body shop after I got my license, and figured I'd get certified and go a little bit farther in that career. And yeah, I got my inspection license. I was working full time, I mean, all through high school. And then after I graduated, I figured why not get my certifications for motorcycles. I was into sport bikes and metric bikes. And MMI was in, I think they're in Florida and Nevada, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I liked kind of staying kind of local, so I found PSI, and it was a little bit less money too, so that worked. I
Well,
went up there.
was Wyotech there in Blairsville closed already?
Um, no, I think they were still open, but I don't remember if they offered a motorcycle program.
I don't think they offered a motorcycle program because I went there in '05 and '06 is when I graduated. But yeah, that's shit right down the road from where you're at. But
Yeah, yeah,
I know they closed eventually because they were fucking robbing people. But besides the
yeah.
point,
I had a couple buddies that went there for I think diesel. Didn't they have a really good diesel program?
yeah, they my I think it was like my last month there is when they just started up their diesel program. So that was August, September of '06. So you would have been like 4.
Yeah, I graduated in 2012.
Oh,
But yeah, I was looking to get more into motorcycles because like I don't know, I felt like I definitely didn't know everything about working on cars, but like cars were cool, but I enjoyed working on cars. And when you do it all day working on other people's cars, it's like, I don't really want to work on my own cars. So it kind of made it not enjoyable in an aspect. It's like, well, let's start working on bikes, and because I raced motocross and all that, so I thought that was the career path I wanted. And then it's great school, don't get me wrong, but they taught you a lot about how to read a service manual, and I didn't really want to read a service manual. You know, I wanted to learn the hands-on aspect.
right. That's my son has said something about wanting to learn to be a mechanic and was like, Dad, they have schools for that. I'm like, yeah, I know. You'd be better off just going to a local shop and sweeping the floor for 6 months and then learning how to, do oil changes and tires and, just work your way up like that. Have someone show you hands on rather than paying a bunch of money to a school that is going to throw a book at you and teach you how to read that.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, I don't want to knock their program. They have a nice program. They have a nice dyno class. They teach you how to run bikes on a dyno and tune and all that. And they do have a nice program. It just because I had the background that I did, I wasn't being challenged. You know, it was like I could explain to the teacher what he was teaching before he even was finished with the course. You know, so I don't know. It just wasn't for me. And then I was working full time as a car mechanic, and I was a flat rate tech at Mister Tire, and they tried making me like the lube tech, and I was like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Started upselling everything, so I was making okay money, and then I actually got in a really bad car crash, and broke my skull. Was in a coma and shit for 4 days. So
Oh,
I had to,
damn.
yeah, I had to relearn how to walk, talk. I mean, the works. So that was rough. I had to drop out of school because of that. But what can you do?
Not getting car crashes, man.
Yep. Fast cars and alcohol don't mix.
Oh,
But
shit. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, I paid that. Learned that lesson the hard way. So
well, at least you learned it.
I sure did. I definitely learned that one. But yeah, I ended up having to drop out, and I was in rehabilitation. I think for 3 or 4 months. They had to relearn. I had to relearn everything. I mean, I one of my earliest memories after that, because like I don't remember shit for like months, was I couldn't figure out how to use a ratchet. Like I knew how to use a ratchet. Obviously, it's pretty simple, but I just couldn't get the mechanics. I couldn't make my hands move the way they needed to. It's very frustrating, but I got back into it. I want to give up, and I don't like being told I won't be the same. So stuck both middle fingers up and proved those doctors wrong.
I was going to say, yeah, you showed them, didn't you?
Yeah,
Shit.
but after that, I ran a little quad shop um, for a family friend. He opened a quad repair shop. I was racing hair scrambles on a quad through the woods on the local circuit. That was a lot of fun. Ran that. Worked on a bunch of farm quads that were beat to shit and back. And after that, I got into welding and joined the Steelworkers Union, and it's been all downhill since then.
So, what was your first street bike?
Uh, this is a tough one to admit. I'm not gonna lie. It was a I got it when I was 16 and a half. I got my Class M. I mean, right after I got my uh, Class C car license, and it was a 2000, I want to say, Hyosung GT 250. They're like a Korean company. They're like a naked sport bike, and it was a turd. It was a 250. It wasn't fast at all, but that was all I could afford. And wheels are wheels, right? So that's what I got.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's got two wheels, who cares what it is? But I'd never, I don't think I've ever heard of a Hyo song.
Yeah, not too many people have, and that's where it's kind of like every time I get asked, "Oh, what's your first bike?" Like, damn. But I mean, wheels are wheels. I rode the shit out of it. So,
So, what, did you end up selling it? What happened to that?
yeah, I actually put that down, put it into a ditch. Um, riding a wheelie with my high school girlfriend on the back. I didn't see the road turned, and put the front wheel down in the grass and grabbed a handful of front brake and put it down. And then I don't know what happened. I think I needed money for. I had a WRX at the time, and I think I needed money for the WRX. Blew the tranny out, sold it for that.
Well,
Something along those lines. That's a good question. I don't know why I sold it, but yeah, I ended up selling it for what I paid for it to a guy I worked with.
well, you broke even on it. That's not bad.
Yeah, I rode the shit out of it. I wrecked it, put new bars on it, and sold it. But
What was your next bike after that?
it was a my next bike was a uh, GT 500, maybe Suzuki GT 500. I could be wrong. It was a 500 like sport touring, I guess. And then I sold that after my car crash. And then my first Harley was a actually that white bike I built. It's a 2004 883, and I got that in 2017. And couldn't leave good enough alone, so I put a foot clutch on it and a jockey shift and did the whole bobber thing. Took everything off it, painted it, and then rode it like that for a while. And then I got a Road King. I got into the bagger thing, and did the audio and all that. That was a lot of fun. Spent a lot of money on that though, and ended up selling that, and then that's where the twisting and the whole company thing came about.
The twisting and
Um,
the whole what thing came about?
Steel City Blacksmithing. That's when I started
Oh,
my company after I sold the Road King. I had a buddy that was into the big wheel baggers, and he kept hooking me up with like audio parts and headlights, stuff like that. So handlebars. So I'd take the stuff off the Road King and I'd sell it. And I was using that money to buy more parts for the Road King. And my um, wife at the time was actually pregnant with our second, and I was like, "Well, look, I make decent money as a welder, and I'm making decent money selling these parts. So like, I could be a second income, and you could be a stay-at-home mom." And then I ran out of parts, so I was like, "Well, shit, I don't know what I'm gonna do." And then I saw a post on Instagram through one of the swapper pages. Did I
like
lose you?
the nope, not I'm here. Like the chopper swapper or
Yeah, it
part
was on
swapper pages.
Swapper Swapper. It was a company up in Wisconsin, Old Iron Parts Co. He, I think he was looking to move buildings, and he didn't want to pay another month's lease or another month's rent. So he listed like his whole inventory of Ironhead parts on for I want to say it was 5 grand at first. It was like 3,000 parts for 5 grand. I was like, ah, that's cool. And then he lowered it to 4 grand, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And he lowered it to 35, and I asked the ex, I was like, hey, what do you think about me offering him 3 grand, seeing if he'll take it? And she's like, yeah, I mean, I guess go ahead. And I shot him 3 grand. And I would have bet you my paycheck that he would have turned that down. And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll take 3 grand. What do you want me to do with them? I was like, I have no idea. I wanted you to say no because I have no idea what I'm going to do with 3,000 parts. So, yeah. And then he shipped them all to me. And I noticed everything that was like twisted from like the 70s. I had a twisted sissy bar. I had a couple twisted highway bars. They would sell like as soon as I put it on the internet. Like whatever I was asking, the next day they were gone. I was like, well, I could buy square stock and a torch. Like I've been into metalworking my whole life. Like I could do this. And then bought a torch, some square stock, made a hammer, and then started selling sissy bars, twisted sissy bars, and got real out of hand real quick.
So that's is that when you started really customizing, or did you? What would you say your first Harley was? Sportster? Was that beginner's
Yeah,
luck?
yeah, it was beginner's luck, but it obviously didn't look like that. I built that in 20 the winter of 2022. Um, but the first like build, if you will, I don't know, it was a just lowered on Burley Slammer shocks. Everything was powder coated black. I got rid of all the chrome. I made some handlebars. Uh, Me and my dad painted it, and it was a bucket mix. We got lucky because it turned out sweet. It was like a copper. I think it's way back on my page. I'll have to look up the picture and send it to you. But I don't know if you want to call that customizing, because like, I mean, I guess it was, but it wasn't to the point that it got to in 2022. But
Well, it's still more than just like swapping a set of bars out and saying that you built a bike.
yeah, yeah, it was pretty involved. I don't know, and for that was back before I really talked to anybody in the industry. So I was kind of just like, I don't know, throwing shit at the wall, finding pictures online like, oh, those are cool. And I just tried building it. And because I was selling those Ironhead parts, I was reinvesting all my profit. I mean, it would help out with the bills, um, so she could be a stay-at-home mom, and anything extra, I would just reinvest. And then I bought a benchtop mill. I never ran a mill until I owned one. I bought a
Really?
mill because I was tired of notch or coping square stock for handlebars by hand. So I was like, I bet I could buy a mill, and just started figuring it out. You figure out what you're doing wrong real quick when you're blowing up like $80 bits. So
Yeah.
started figuring it out, and then I bought a lathe. Never ran a lathe until I owned one. It was a 1920 South Bend, and that was a terrifying machine to run because there's no such thing as guards in 1920. But then
Well, even with the cards on, the lathe is still a wicked machine. Like I, even my little Atlas lathe, when I plug that thing in, I'm like, oh man, I hope I don't get too close to this.
yeah, I I got a glove sucked up in the South Bend around Roundstock, and it like rolled, like the material was spinning on like the back of my fingers. So like my hand went up under it, like the glove went up under it. But luckily, like the glove was slipping enough around the material that it didn't suck me completely in. I hurried up and reached out and flipped it off. And that's when I learned don't wear gloves.
I was just gonna say that, like, I I'm just learning how to CNC a machine and shit. My hands are carved up, and I said something to one of the guys, like, man, sure it'd be nice to, we had gloves around here, and he's like, no, you don't wear gloves in a CNC
Yeah,
shop because it'll grab you and suck you in. I'm like, oh, well, all right.
yeah. I'm at work. I run a CNC mill mostly at work. I do run CNC lathes at work every now and again, but I'm mostly on a mill. But I'll wear like nitro gloves or latex gloves just to keep the oil and the chips off out of your fingertips. But anything more than that, because they'll pull off quick enough. Like if you get sucked in or touch something you shouldn't, um, they'll pull off or just rip away. It still probably shouldn't do it, but shouldn't do a lot of things. But kind of is what it is.
Right.
But yeah, then I got a TIG. I never TIG welded till I owned a TIG, and then actually I guess it was before my build, so it would have been early 2022, maybe even 2021. I saw a little hot rod on Facebook Marketplace, and Heather Callan was the seller. I was like, that name looks really familiar, and I know where that car is. Like, it was right down the street. It's a 1950 four-door DeSoto with a 425 nailhead big block Buick in it. And I was like, I know where that car is. I started talking to her, and sure enough, it was Chris and Heather Callan, the owners of Cycle Source magazine. They live like 10 minutes away from me.
Nice.
So I started hanging out with them, and um, that's kind of what gave me the kick in the ass to build my first bike. So dove into
Well,
it.
well, hey, if they're listening, and they'd like to be a guest on the podcast, I'd love to have them on. So,
Yeah, yeah, they're great people. I mean, I've gone over there. I actually helped Chris on that 49 pan. He just launched it a couple months ago, but I helped him out on that frame, and they're great people. And Chris and his buddy Mark and everybody I met through him. I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge. Like they get those guys know so much about everything. So it's cool. He kind of took me under his wing. So I'm very fortunate. I would have never guessed if you saw Russellton, and I live right outside of Russellton, PA. It's like a little, I mean, little almost farm town, I guess you could say. It's tiny town. There's nothing in it, and there's all kind of chopper history like right down the street. It's pretty crazy.
Well, yeah, listening to the low life guys and everything, like I guess I just didn't realize that the East Coast scene was like as big as it is. But it sounds like, out that way there's just a lot going on in the chopper scene. Like
Yeah, yeah.
old school chopper scene, not the, big dog fat tire chopper scene that I'm pretty sure is mostly dead now.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much of that going on. I mean, not the super super fat tires like the 240s and 280s.
No.
Yeah, yeah, and actually the Low Life Chopper podcast, that was another kicking ass for me to buy those Ironhead parts. What even got I got into listening to podcasts back when I was in that steelworker union job and production welding, and I saw Jesse James was on like a blacksmithing podcast way back when, and I listened to him, and then I just googled chopper podcast, and they popped up, and I started listening to them way back then, and they were like, "Yeah, man, if you got a dream and you just want to go for something, just go for it. Like, don't be a bitch." I was like, "That's all the advice I need." So that was another kick in the ass I needed to get going.
Yeah. When
But those guys are like brothers to me. I actually Loctite Pinstripe Beginner's Luck. Dan Bliss, who I met through the podcast, No Luck Paintworks, he painted it. Uh, Fat Man Custom Motors, Steve Millward from up there, um, rebuilt the motor on it. Who else did I meet? I met Cam from Hypnic Jerk Customs. He did the tail light and the engraving, some of the engraving. And I met him through the podcast. So yeah, podcasts are it's crazy the community that can follow a podcast and how many great people. I'm sure you're already building a community yourself, so it's good. It's like family, you know. A lot of those guys I've never met, and the first time I met them, they'd walk up and give me a big old hug like they know me forever. So podcasts, I really have a high respect for guys that run podcasts. So kudos to you, man.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm very, very small. I'm hoping to grow it here a little bit. That's I got a couple of smaller shops that I'm talking to, trying to get on, and that's talking to you and John Gaddy. I had him on 2 weeks ago. Fucking hilarious guy. He's funny as shit, but he's got a pretty big following and does a lot of cool shit down in Florida. And I'm hoping to kind of leverage you bigger guys into getting more eyes on smaller guys, and just sharing the wealth a little bit, helping
Yeah, of
spread,
course. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Like
right?
everybody starts small. Everybody got to start somewhere. So I'm sure you'll get there one day. Just gotta stay after it. That's all. Be persistent.
Just keep plugging away, man.
Yes, sir. That's what I did. It's all you can do.
So with beginner's luck, how how did you come up with this? Because I've got the magazine like right in front of me. For anyone listening, Cycle Source, March 23, Volume 26, Issue 8. Josh is in the back here on page 86. But you can spend hours looking at this bike and still not see everything.
Yeah, that's it kind of I had a lot of fun building that bike. I was kind of just I had ideas in my head of what I wanted it to look like, and I had some inspiration from uh a number of guys like the down tubes, how they're like a helix. I got that idea kind of from Paul Cox. If you look back at Paul Cox's page, he did a braided down tube with three pieces of tube, and then he silicone bronze braided it together, and it looked bitchin'. And I was like, oh, how sweet would that be if I use twisted 1 inch hex stock, and I twist it around like that. And like I wanted a lot more twists than what the 2 or 3 wraps that it does, 2 wraps. But that was like I twisted the material, and they were 2 3 foot sections, and I welded them together at the bottom. The spacing I needed to go into the engine cradle, if you will, of the stock frame. That's the only stock thing on that bike, was just the front and the back motor mount. And I stuck them in my forge, heated them all up. I mean, the whole length, all 3 feet was like cherry red. And I pulled it out, and I had to soak my welding gloves in water because it was too heavy to grab with like blacksmith tongs. So I had to soak my gloves in water so when I grabbed it, it didn't burn. So it'd be sizzling. I'd run over, stick it in a vise. I'd jump up on top of the welding table and put pipes on the top for leverage, and just started pulling them around each other. And after like the first crisscross, I was like, this is a horrible idea. This is why nobody's done it. It was gnarly. It took me like 6 hours by myself. I mean, the forge running nonstop for 6 hours and just yanking it around. And if you look at it, like I got kind of lucky. There's like an 1/8 of an inch clearance in between the front valve cover or rocker box cover and a down tube. Like it's there.
Oh, hey, there you're back.
Yeah, could you hear me? Did I lose you?
No, I couldn't hear you at all. You said there's an 1/8 of an inch between, and then you cut out.
Yeah, there's like sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Like I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear anything.
Oh,
But
no problem, man.
it's like an 1/8 of an inch clearance between the down tubes and the front part of the rocker box cover. But I got lucky. But clearance is clearance, right? So it doesn't
Right.
touch. It worked out. But after that, I kind of just like I honestly didn't measure anything. Like, to be completely honest, like I'd rough it like an eyeball, how long I needed, and then like everything was hot bent with the torch or my forge. Um, I don't know what degree any of those bends are, and I think I measured the rake after everything was welded or tack welded together, because I kind of just pulled it until it touched everything, and I think it ended up being 28 degrees, which would actually be a hair derate from stock.
I was gonna say that's not. I think like my Honda Shadow, I think stock's like 30 or 33, so 28. That's not.
Yeah, I want to say stock Sportsters are 30 rubber
Yeah.
mount. So I want to say it was a hair deraked, but I wanted the straight line backbone, so like straight line all the way from the neck to the axle plates. I wanted the seat post and the down tubes to kind of be at a similar angle, and of course I wanted everything to be twisted. And I don't know, I just started twisting material and sticking stuff together. I had a blast building that. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, it's a really cool bike.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess I got lucky on a lot of things. I mean, I did make sure everything was square and straight and true, and like the machinist in me came out. But like the the chain, for instance, it has like a 16th of an inch clearance between the top twisted piece in the hardtail and a 16th of an inch right above the back motor mount, if you're looking at the picture,
Yep.
on the other side of the chain. So like I literally split the difference down the center of the clearance. I should have definitely given myself more clearance than that, but knock on wood, it's never touched. But I actually had to surface grind the back of the sprocket. I had to take like 90 thou off the back of the sprocket to move the sprocket towards the motor to get it off the frame. So Yeah, I got lucky on some things, but it was a blast. And that thing rode, believe it or not, everybody was like, "Oh, with those down tubes not being symmetrical, it's not gonna ride right." And I kind of believed them until I got on it and put it in fifth gear and held it wide open going on a turnpike, and that thing drove straight as an arrow, one hand on the handlebars all day.
I
So
I guess I just don't. Why would that? Why would the down tubes? Did they think that it was going to be like off balance or something?
yeah, weight distribution.
Gotcha.
I that was the conversation I had with I don't know, probably at least two guys kind of talked to me about it, like, you might want to rethink about that. And I was like, whoa, it's way too late for that. But yeah, I mean, no bullshit. I don't even know what it tops out at. I when it had a speedo, I had it up around 100, running out of RPMs in fifth gear. And I mean, I had that thing, I mean, hammered down in fifth going down the turnpike. And I mean, it rode nice. I think it rode better with the hardtail and the spring seat than with the Burley Slammer shocks, to be honest.
I'm honestly impressed with the quality of ride that a hardtail with a sprung seat gives you. Like I was afraid with mine that I was gonna tear my back up or stuff, but it's actually a very very comfortable ride, surprisingly.
It, yeah, it wasn't bad at all, because that's my first hardtail and first foot clutch jockey shift with no front brake. And I had a blast riding that thing. I regret getting rid of that. That's gonna be that bike that I carry with me the rest of my life. Like, I wish I would
Shouldn't
have
have let
never.
it go.
Yeah, shouldn't have. But I sold that. Well, I raffled it off to buy a CNC for at home, and because of the CNC, I've opened up a ton of avenues of revenue through my business and started doing subcontract work for PPG because of the CNC. And even I work for a machine shop in Carnegie, PA, and they even subcontract some machining to me. Like, we do production runs, and if they get like a one part or two part order, they'll subcontract it to me. So you kind of gotta. I mean, CNCs are expensive, and I bought this one. I mean, it's a Tormach. It's a kind of a cheaper at home CNC. It's 110. It's not the biggest, not the most powerful, but it'll hold tolerances. I mean, I've held plus or minus 2.5 thou on it all day. So as long as you know how to use it, but I mean, it cost a pretty penny. So I had to do something if I felt like I stagnated and I wasn't growing anymore. So the bike
You
had to go.
you said it was a 110?
Yeah, it's 110 volt, 120
Really?
volt. Yep. Yeah, it's only a 1.5 horse motor. It's a little guy, but it spins 10,000 RPMs.
Oh shit.
So it spins a little quicker. I mean, you're not gonna bury a 3/4 inch end mill, 100,000 of material, and just hog it like I can do at work on. We run Mori Sikis at work in Doosan's, and I mean, you could hog material at work on this. I mean, 50 50 thou. It'll take off some material and make some chips at 50 thou depth of cut. Um, I mean, as long as you use it conservatively, it's it'll do good work.
What'd you say the name was? I'm googling this shit right now.
The Tormach 770M, Tormach.
770.
M is the model I bought.
Everyone is tuning out right now because we're nerding out on CNC machines.
Hey, that's all right. I actually highly suggest them. I mean, I think I got it pretty loaded up. I think I paid 21,000 or 22,000 for it. But the conversational control on it is so user friendly. Like, so user friendly. You could spit out a 10,000 line code in 20 minutes standing at the controller. Like it's very, very easy to use.
Yeah, programming's my next venture.
Yeah, once I mean, I could do some pretty good programming. I use if I have something intricate or with a lot of critical dimensions or features on it, I use Fusion 360 or
Really?
Autodesk or whatever. But I use that as the CAD and CAM. They actually have a CAM package that isn't that much money, surprisingly. I want to say it's like $500 a year on top of the $500 a year for the licensing. Um, but it communicates with the Tormach like, I mean, butter. So you can literally design a part in CAD, transfer it to the CAM package, hit right program, you pick your features and your faces and your orientation and all that, and hit right program, and it'll spit out a program. You send it straight to the controller. I mean, it's instantaneous. Like as soon as you update it on a computer, it'll ask you at the controller, your program's been changed. Reload now. And I mean, it's really seamless. You got to watch some of the speeds and feeds on the CAM package. It wants to spin at like 7,000 RPMs and feed at 50 inches per minute. And I didn't catch it a couple times, and yeah, it makes some really loud noises, really, really quick. So you just gotta watch. You gotta be mindful, but they communicate really nice. And like I said, I've held plus or minus 2.5 thousandths of an inch all day, and I mean it. I'm really happy with it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's looking at them. Yeah, the price tag on them isn't terrible. So
No, and I would definitely suggest. I'm because I was I don't know, I was on a tight budget, so I kind of cut corners where I could, and I didn't get a power drawbar or flood coolant, so I have to manually crack the drawbar loose and tap it down to loosen up the part or the I got the TTS tool holders. It's like a proprietary tool holder through Tormach, and it's actually pretty. I mean, it's small. It's not your Cat 30 toll holders, but I mean, it does good. But I would definitely suggest getting flood coolant, an enclosure, and a power drawbar. And I mean, you could do some serious work with it.
hell yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
but then once I started playing with that, I mean, it once you can wrap your head around the G code and the XYZ coordinate system, I mean, once you can wrap your head around work shifts and offsets and all that, um I mean it it expands what you can do exponentially. I mean, it's endless possibilities. So I
That's the cool thing about the CNCs, the lathes and the mills and stuff is that you can actually, take a block of material and turn it into something. But
yep.
my thing is that I'm not creative enough to look at that block of material and go, yeah, I could make a foot peg out of that. And I mean, I could look at somebody else's and be like, yeah, okay, I like that. We can do that. But to come up with like a design myself, I'm just not creative enough, I don't think, to do that.
Yeah, I don't know, I've always kind of been creative, and then I'm I'm honestly not creative at all when it comes to paint or colors or anything like that. Like I literally told Dan, the guy that painted the bike, I was like, you can do whatever you want. I want flames, and I think you should smoke it. But other than that, uh, just let it rip. And he came up with the flames in the dished part of the tank, which I thought was cool, and that smoke was like actual smoke. I think he used blue painter's tape he lit on fire. A lot of guys use acetylene from an oxygen acetylene torch, but he used blue painter's tape, like lit it on fire and just dusted it across the paint. And like pictures don't do it justice at all. Like it looks like a marble countertop. It turned out awesome. But if you give me a piece of metal and some heat and a hammer, I'll make something cool now. I don't know. You kind of just gotta go for it. Figure it out as you go.
Right. Yeah, man, that bike's cool. Well, speaking of cool bikes, the guitar bike. How did that come to be?
Yeah, that was very humbling, to be honest. He hit me up. I was like, there's no way this guy from the other side of the world is gonna pay me to build him something. But sure enough, he uh he actually became like a brother. I mean, me and him still talk. But he saw I started my frame, and after I posted my frame on the internet, all my posts started getting a lot of traction and reaching a lot of accounts. And then I think I started building a Dyna frame for a guy in California, which turned out pretty cool. And then he hit me
Was
up.
it another twisted frame?
Yeah, it was a 2016 or 17 Street Bob, I want to say. And yeah, it was two twisted down tubes. I used 1.25 inch. I use a lot of hexagon stock, because it shows 6 points instead of four. So it, in my opinion, it looks less bulky than square stock, and it appears more twisted because you're showing more points. And it also matches up with tubing a lot nicer than square stock. So I use hex stock like mostly everything on that bike on beginner's luck was hex stock. But yeah, I used 1.25 inch hex stock for the down tubes, and he wanted to keep the square backbone. So we did the square backbone. I want to say we went up 9, out 4, or out 6 in the neck, and we copied an FXR trail, so it should handle like incredibly. I think he actually just got the frame back from Chrome maybe a couple weeks ago now, so that should be going back together here pretty soon. But after that, the guitar guy hit me up and just started spitballing ideas, and that was a rubber mount too. So it seems like all the rubber mount sportsters kind of gravitated to me, which is, I mean, fine by me. I think I've built 3 or 4 of them by now, and my next one will be a rubber mount too. I don't know. I think the rubber mounts are easy to come by, and I think it's a very usable platform to start with.
But once I get finished with this competition build that I'm doing, I plan on selling it and buying a sporty, and that'll be my next venture.
Yeah, supposedly 99 to 03 are great motors, and they're solid mount too. So I mean the parts for those are, I mean, endless, and rubber mounts are starting to, you could, I think a couple people offer hardtail kits for the rubber mounts now. I welded on a TC Bros hardtail kit on a customer bike that was a rubber mount, and that was a really easy hardtail kit to weld on. You could probably do that without a jig, to be honest.
What? Yeah, I think some of the sporties they use the motor as a jig, don't they?
Yeah, this one you couldn't use the motor as a jig. I do think pre 2003, so I think all the solid mounts. I don't know what year it starts and what year it stops, but I want to say up to 2003 you use the motor as the jig. But this one you couldn't, but TC Bros sells a uh fixture plate that like bolts onto the frame, and then it bolts onto their hardtail kit, and it literally trues everything up. And believe it or not, like every frame I've built in my frame jig, I literally use twine in my thumbnail to make sure the axle plates are evenly spaced. And just a simple angle finder, like those cube angle finders, to make sure everything's. I mean, you really gotta measure and make sure everything's true down the center and true left and right. But it it definitely could be done on the rubber mounts without a jig, as long as you have that fixture point and you're careful, you're tedious with your measurements.
So
But
you've got a frame jig yourself?
I do, yeah. I got a frame jig. It's a homegrown one. The beginner's luck I built in a, actually it was Chris Callen's chop source frame jig. He let me borrow it, and that was a cool frame jig. I highly suggest the rotary fixture to lay it over, so then you don't have to weld upside down. My frame jig now doesn't have a rotary, so I gotta weld upside down and stick the foot pedal between my armpit and do all kind of creative positions to weld. But I mean, you get it done. But the rotary fixture is really nice. You get spoiled.
I never thought about sticking the foot pedal between my armpit.
It's definitely not fun. Not gonna lie to you, it is not fun. But I mean, it works. So as long as you understand like the mechanics behind it, and I'm sure if you got a TIG, you do, to
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you travel speed and everything can adjust to compensate for heat and hanging out if you're not hot enough to heat up the metal and bring it liquefy it. But yeah, you could get it done under your armpit. Done it multiple times.
All right. Well, back to the guitar bike.
Yeah,
'Cause
sorry, we kind of got off.
oh no, man, that's great. No, I love diverging down different paths. But who designed that? Did the guy over there design it, or you guys work together, or how-
Yeah, for the most part, um, he had a he definitely had a vision, and he would explain it to me. And some of the stuff I was like, well, I think that's a little bit too far. Maybe we should do this. But it's kind of collaboration. It started as a Paco frame. He actually bought a Paco frame straight from Paco. It was an up 6 out 4 with a 30-degree rake. Um, had that shipped to me, and then I mean, I don't know, shamefully, I guess, cut it right apart as soon as I got it. But I don't know. I never built a complete frame. Like my bike, I built everything on it, but I had a frame to start with that I cut apart. So I kind of knew where stuff needed to be based off the frame. And he was in a build off. Well, he wanted the bike done for the one show up there in Qatar. And so he had a deadline, and we found it to be more effective or time efficient to just get a Paco frame and me modify it. So then he definitely wanted a twisted single down tube. So that's 1.5 inch hex stock that I twisted in house, and that was gnarly to twist. I mean, that's so hard to do. And then he wanted some twisted accents in the frame. There's some in the rear section. If you zoom in on it, it's on my social media a while back.
yeah,
But he
if you
wanted.
guys, anyone listening doesn't know what we're talking about, stop what you're doing, go to Steel City Blacksmithing's Instagram page and look at this fucking bike because it is crazy, crazy. Go ahead, bud.
I
Sorry.
Yeah, but he was very anal about his wiring. It all had to be hidden. So all the twists on it are actually hollow. The down tube's not hollow, but like the twists in the rear section, the twist in the seat post, um, the handlebars, a lot of stuff on that bike is hollow, so you could still internal wire it, which was, I mean, that was painstaking to drill 9 inches deep through a piece of steel that's already twisted because it doesn't turn true. So I was chucking it in my lathe and like it's swapping and I'm turning it slow and I kind of had to like shift it to where the drill wasn't going to poke out the side. You know what I mean? Because like
Uh,
it doesn't stay perfectly true. Well, it didn't at that time. Since then, I've kind of revamped how I twist, and I could keep it a lot truer now. But um, yeah, that was a pretty cool thing that everything had to be hollow, and it was definitely a challenge. And then the uh the tank was that was his idea. He was like, dude, we should split a tank. And I was like, yeah, we definitely should do that. And didn't think about it at all because that was so hard to do. But
well, when you say split a tank, you think at least immediately thinks like old school Fat Bob Harley tanks that are split down the middle. You have actually have two separate tanks, and the center console of the bike usually hides the split in them. But
yeah.
that's not at all what you did.
Yeah. No, that would make too much sense. We had to do it the hardest way possible. But yeah, he wanted it split down the center, like left to right if you're sitting on a bike. But he wanted like a I don't know what you want to call it, a lightning bolt or a Z or a zigzag. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. In it, and I've never really worked with sheet metal. Um, I've welded thin stuff, but I've never welded on a gas tank. And that was I didn't normally I try to play chestnut checkers and try to think like 10 steps ahead, but I did not do it on that because I literally took blue painter's tape and just put it on the tank and was like, yeah, that looks good, and just started cutting. And I didn't give myself enough clearance between the split for the TIG welder or the TIG torch to fit in between because the twists on there are hollow, all three of them. So it's still fully functional. It still holds gas in the top and the bottom, but none of it's screwed together. Like it's fully welded and fully sealed. So to weld on the inside of the tank underneath the twists was so hard to do, to be honest. It was gnarly, and I wasn't very happy. Like I think my daughter learned some new swear words. Yeah, it was very it was a challenge to say the least. We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that was a cool thing. I don't know. It was one of those like, yeah, that'll be great. Let's do it. And then
It
I don't
sounds really
know.
good, at least, right?
Yeah, just figured it out. Made it happen though. It doesn't leak. So
So you said that you hadn't really done like metal work before that. So you did all the metal work on that.
yeah, I've never really done sheet metal work. I've done a lot of heavy stuff, and I think heavy stuff is a lot more forgiving than sheet metal. And I've welded thin stuff at work, but never to that extent. And yeah, that was a learning curve to say the least. And then I did a lot of touch up work with silicone bronze brazing rod, so you could keep the heat lower because you're brazing, so you're not melting the parent material. You're at, if you want to get nerdy about it, I think it's called a capillary action. Is the action of brazing? It's when you get it. I want to say 800 to 900 degrees is brazing temperature. So because you're not melting, it's easier to not uh, get porosity or contaminants. So that's I added some bronze brazing to that because it was easier to work with and smooth out than adding filler rod. And I didn't have like a I don't even know what they're called, like spot welders with the slide hammer to pull dents out. I didn't have one of those. I didn't have an English wheel, so I was kind of just working with what I had.
Yeah, I think those are called spot welders. Yeah, they just
Yeah,
put a
like
little.
it spot welds like a post on, and you put a slide
Yep.
hammer on it to boom, pop a dent out.
Yep. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I didn't have one of those, so I kind of just made it happen with whatever I had.
Well, it turned out killer. That's when you sent me the picture. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I did all the metal work on that bike, and I actually bought another rubber mount from Mockup. So then I pulled the engine out and shipped it to him in a crate completely taken apart. Because if it was fully assembled with a motor, he had to pay like triple on import fee. But if I'm sending him a box of parts, he paid next to nothing. So
Yeah, I,
that made sense. And then he did the final uh, build on it, and like that dude is an animal because like I think he said he was up for like 64 hours straight working on the bike nonstop to get it done in time. And sure as shit, he got it done in time for the show. Like he came down to the wire. It is pretty impressive how much work he did in such little time.
yeah, that's 64 hours. That's crazy.
Yeah, he killed it. I had I want to say I had over 200 man hours into that bike in like 2.5 months or so total, because like the frame was supposed to be a 4 week lead time and it was like a 16 week lead time. And
Yeah,
uh,
funny how that works, doesn't it?
yeah, it's very funny, but very frustrating too, because like I felt horrible because like he was searching online and everybody was 8 to 12 weeks, and we found that, and it was like I think it was 4 to 8 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks. It's like, cool. Well, it's a little bit more money, but you're going to get it in a fraction of the time, which will give me more time to work on it. And then at like 12 weeks, it was like, well, sorry, because you totally wasted the money on getting this sooner. But like, it was out of my hands, you know. There was nothing I could do. But he was real understanding. And then, yeah, it was coming down to the wire. I was working 7 days a week. I was working 4 10s at my day job and working on that at night, so I could work Friday, Saturday, Sunday on that without missing time at work. And yeah, it was a trying period in my life because like that was a lot of long hard days, but we got it done. It was very rewarding once it was done.
But did he win the show?
Um,
Or
that
was
is
it a build off?
actually That is actually a very long story. That things are different over there. We'll just say that, and yeah, I, I don't think I should say it on the air, but we'll just say jealousy is a bad thing, and I guess a fellow competitor in the show thought that there was some bribery going on, and yeah, he ended up pulling out, but supposedly he was gonna win. He was one of the top bikes, but yeah, he ended up having to pull it out.
Well, I guess that kind of sounds similar to shows over here, though. I mean, the guys that win know, are cousins, friends of the promoter usually.
Yeah, but over there, uh, from what it's been explained to me, it's kind of lawless, and
Well,
like people will lose their life over shit like that. So it was pretty crazy.
well, I like building motorcycles, but I don't take it that seriously. God damn.
Yeah, but there was a $50,000 purse on
Oh
that
shit.
bill. So yeah, people got real serious. But all the um all the gold on that bike is actual 24 karat gold plating. Like even the foot pegs are gold plated. Like it gnarly.
Well, it sounds like he's got more than 50 grand wrapped up in this bike.
Yeah, I would definitely say that is a very accurate statement. And it's funny because he was just talking to me just last week. His next build, he wants to do a cafe style, like bobber or whatever you call that. And he wants to use a Banshee motor, like a Yamaha Banshee motor,
Yeah, like a
352 stroke.
just a 350. Doesn't want to go 700. Oh, that's Raptor, isn't it? 700.
Yeah, the Raptor, and then the Raptor's a 704 stroke. The 350 twin two stroke is an animal.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I don't know if it's worth it because my frame's gonna cost more than motor. And I was like, bro, if you were gonna talk about being more than the motor, like I don't know. I think I built you a frame, and it's definitely more than the motor.
He's,
But yeah, I think that's gonna be his next build. I think that'll be pretty cool. He's got some crazy ideas.
yeah, no, it sounds like it.
But yeah, that build was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that build. And the single down tube, it turned out crazy. And the what sprayer is that? That's a Bone Orchard sprayer, and that dude does incredible work. He he's on Instagram at Bone Orchard Cycles, I want to say. But his sprayers are, I mean, top quality. So I highly recommend them. They're worth every penny. I felt bad about that one too because he sent me a brand new Bone Orchard sprayer for me to cut the front legs off of. But
If it's what the customer wants, right?
yeah, hey, whatever. Whatever you send me, I'll cut apart if you want me to. Replace it all with twists.
So, all right, your Instagram is Steel City Blacksmithing, and that is your business too, correct?
It is. That's what I'm doing business as. I am actually Ironhead Supply Company LLC. That like that those Ironhead parts I told you started selling. I LLC'd once I started building parts. Uh and I just called it Iron. I was Ironhead Supply Co. on all social media. So it's Ironhead Supply Company LLC, doing business as Steel City Blacksmithing. My website steelcityblacksmithing.com. Facebook Steel City Blacksmithing, Instagram Steel City Blacksmithing. I don't mess with TikTok or Twitter or anything. I'm not really good at social media, but yep,
No,
that's
they
it.
seems like there's a new one every day that you gotta figure out and get used to, and I don't have time or patience for that shit.
Yeah, and like I used to be a lot better at it, and you could definitely tell in my sales that I was a lot better at social media. But it got to the point where it was like, to build all this cool stuff, I got to spend hours every day online posting and promoting and doing this, that, and now the other with social media. It's like, I don't know. I'd rather just be in my shop just building shit. So I kind of I'll still talk to people and still reply, but I don't really promote myself or advertise or anything on social media anymore. But I know I'm happy just in my shop working.
Right. So
So
how'd you get into blacksmithing?
I got into blacksmithing because of the twisting. I wanted to make twisted T bars, like twisted riserless T bars, but I wanted the vertical parts to be twisted one in square stock. And some dude, I actually still talk to him. He hit me up. He's from Australia, but he's like, yeah, there's no way you're ever gonna twist 1 inch square stock by yourself. You need three people with two torches and one guy to twist it, and I was like, well, challenge accepted, because it's me by myself. I started my company in a 10 by 14 shed with a wooden floor, and I bought my first propane forge, and the thought was if I could heat this entire piece of metal up, uh, fully heated all the way around, because the problem with the torch is you only got heat on one side. So if you can get it hot enough to twist, it wants to warp towards the cold side. So you don't have any even heat. So even if you can get 1 inch to twist or 3/4 inch to twist, it ends up looking like a wave, which doesn't work, because then it's not as functional and it doesn't look as good. It's not aesthetically pleasing. So the thought was if I could heat it up in a forge and get an even heat all the way around, I could be able to twist it myself. And after I started twisting the heavier stuff, um, a guy from Florida, he hit me up and he's like, "Hey, you ever forge a hammer?" I was like, "Nope, but I will." And that's actually where, if you look at my logo, there it's an eagle holding a twisted ball peen, and that's where the whole logo started. I twisted a hammer, and ever since then I started forging more, and then got an anvil, and spent a lot of hours pounding over steel. I think everybody needs to try it once before they die, because it is the most rewarding and like satisfying thing you could do, because like as you're swinging that hammer, like it's loud, it's noisy, it's hot, so like there's a lot going on, and like as you're in that steel, like you're instantly seeing what you're doing to it. Like there's no delay. So it's very satisfying in my opinion. Very stress relieving too. Have a bad day, go down there and pound on some steel.
Uh, Take out your frustrations on it.
Yep. Yeah, but I always say if anybody's ever near Pittsburgh and they want to stop by, my shop's always open. Hit me up. I I don't get a lot of hours per day to work, because I work full time. I got uh, four kids under 5 years old, so it's
Damn.
yeah, it's hectic. But I want to change it. It's a lot of fun. And then I got my new business, so yeah, I don't sleep much. But if anybody's ever near Pittsburgh and they want to stop by, definitely hit me up, because since I started forging and then I did the torch, I did the forge twist, I actually got into induction heat, and that's crazy. Have you ever seen an induction heater?
No.
It is alternating magnetic current that heats up. It causes the molecules in the iron to vibrate, which generates heat. It will. I'll send you a video after we get off. It'll take 1 inch square stock, solid square stock, from ice cold to cherry red in under 30 seconds. Like it's insane. But then you could stick your finger in the coil, and because there's no iron in your finger, it won't do anything to your finger. So it's crazy.
That yeah. Like I'm sitting here slack jawed. Like what?
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you a video, but like I'm because like when normally when you forge with like a propane forge or a coal forge, you got to use tongs, and like the whole part gets hot. Because this is so precise and pinpointed heat. The twisted hammers I do with the twisted handle, and I forge a taper on the end. They're like 10 or 11-inch handles. I can hold 1 inch and forge the other end without tongs, in bare hand, no gloves. That's how precise the heat is. So one end will be 1500 to 1800 degrees, hot enough for me to smack it with a hammer and it'll move like butter. And the other side's still cool enough to hold. So it's
How
pretty.
long is it?
What's that?
How long is the piece?
I normally do 10 or 11 inches for the handles.
And the one end is cherry red, and it's not like how far down is it that it gets cherry red?
Well, um, I normally forge at like yellow where it starts to get hard to look at. Um, that's like that's even hot for forging temp. But I normally heat, I don't know, maybe 2 inches or so down the end.
Okay.
So in you figure your hands about 3.5, 4 inches knuckle to knuckle, give or take. I don't know. So in between the end of my hand, we'll say 4 inches, 2 inches to heat. There's what, about 3 inches in between the end of my hand and my thumb and where it's hot. But it's so precise the heat doesn't transfer.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's it honestly, it's great for forging because you could bang out so much stuff so quick, but it's kind of shitty for forging because you can bang out so much shit and you don't have 10 minutes for it to heat up to take a break. So your arms just jello after the first like two parts from swinging a hammer 300 times in 15 minutes. But because like with the propane forge, you just throw the iron in the fire and let it heat up. You got a couple minutes, hang out, take a drink of water, smoke a cigarette. But with the induction heater, it's just constant. But I don't know, it's a lot of fun.
Huh. Yeah, man. I told you before that I'd love to come out to your shop and apprentice with you for a weekend. I think that'd be cool as shit.
Yeah, but anytime you want to, you just let me know. I'll make sure my schedule's free, and yeah, whatever you want. Bring your bike. Bring, I don't know, a notebook with some ideas in it, and we'll build whatever you want. I'll show you how to machine, how to TIG weld, how to forge, twist, whatever you want to know. I am. I think it's a. I think manual machining and blacksmithing and old school traditional metalworking like that is it's a dying art, and I think there's enough meat to go around. I think the community could use 100 more people that twist, and there'll still be enough work to go around. So I'm not stingy about teaching people how to twist material. I'll show you how to start with a forge. I'll show you how to start with a torch. Like anything you want to know, I'm happy to pass on whatever I know.
Well, there's a show over there in September, Glory Days. Are you going to that?
Of course, that's 20 minutes from my house.
Well,
Beginner's Luck was actually in Glory's the Glory Days last year.
I
Or
got a
two.
buddy up in Michigan. He's hosting the build competition that I'm in. But he said something about wanting to go out there and check that out. So I might be in town that weekend.
Yeah, that's an awesome venue. It's at the Cary Blast Furnace, which is an old steel mill that Andrew Carnegie owned way back in the day. And I highly suggest taking the tour. Like I don't know if you're into metalworking and like you
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
the tour, and they tell you about like the working conditions, and like those dudes worked like 12 on, 12 off for 7 days straight, and then a 24 hours shift, and they made like $1 a day, and that was good money. And it's like, wow, I am never complaining about my day job now, sitting in a air conditioned building.
Right.
But yeah, that's a really cool venue. They light it up good. Kurt does a really nice job putting that event on. So I suggest anybody that wants something to do. I mean, it's a perfect excuse to come to Pittsburgh. So I highly suggest it.
So they've had. So I've never seen advertisements for it before. So they've had how many of these shows have they had?
I want to say 2019 was the first one because I went to Glory Days. The first time I went to Glory Days, I was Ironhead Supply Company. So I started my business in 2019. and I was that until I want to say November or December of 2019. So it's been going on for probably 3 or 4 years now.
Huh. So
But
is
they
it?
uh,
Go
they
ahead,
get
bud.
some pretty big names. They get Jesse from Raw Iron Choppers was there last year. Um, Christian Newman's bike, that twin turbo, what is it? A twin turbo WL, that black and purple bike with the stainless frame. That was there the one year. Um, they get a lot of really cool bikes. A lot of awesome work side. What is that guy's name? Detroit Antique Motorcycles or something had it was a 1919, but it was fully electric. But you never know this bike was electric. Like it looked all original, like a 1919 Harley. No, it was an Indian. I don't know. Don't quote me on any of that. But it was old and it was electric. And he said he had to tune down the motor because it would do over 100 mile an hour on an original early 1900 frame and wheel.
That's not sketchy at all.
Not a chance am I doing that. Like I'll do some dumb shit, but there's no fucking way I'm going that fast on that bike. That's a beach cruiser pedal bike, bro. Like no.
Oh my god.
But that was there last year. That was a pretty cool bike.
So how many bikes do they get? Like, what's the turnout like? Well, it's
Well,
invite, right?
yeah, there's I want to say 20 or 30 bikes inside. The invited builders. And then they do like the ride-in show, so you could ride your bike outside, and like in between the blast furnace, they put all the ride-in bikes, and they give out ride-in prizes, and it was a pretty good turnout last year. I'm not even gonna try to guess how many people, but it was packed.
Huh. Well, with shows like that, and like I went to Mama Tried this year, and that was an experience. You ever been there?
I haven't. I've always wanted to go, but I
Uh,
haven't had the chance to.
Milwaukee's a beautiful city, even in February when it's frozen. It's gorgeous, gorgeous city. Um, the show was awesome. The venue that they hold it at, it's awesome. But it seems like with Mama Tried and like Fuel Cleveland and Born Free, that the uh, old school chopper scene type or old school type of builds are really making a comeback. You know,
Yeah, like the 70s style era chopper with the
yeah,
king and queen seat and the real long. Yeah, it seems like that's the go-to style for a lot of guys now, and I love it. I think that's a iconic theme, to be honest. I really my bike wasn't really long, but I think the next one's gonna be long. I actually just got material for my next build, so I'm gonna be
what's
starting
your
that.
what's your next build gonna be?
Um,
You don't have
I
to give it away if you don't want to.
no, I don't care if if you can beat me to the idea, more power to you. I'll help you do it.
I've taken 9 months
No.
to build a Honda Shadow. I'm not beating you anywhere, man.
I want to do. It's gonna be another rubber mount. I got a '04 rubber mount Sportster and an '06. I don't know what engine's gonna go into it, but I think I'm gonna do the hammer kit, so the 1250 big board kit. I'm gonna do electron carb, but I want to do a fully twisted frame. So like if you look at beginner's luck, the backbone is tubing. I don't know why I did it tubing. I regretted it as soon as I welded it together. It should have been twisted. So this one will be fully twisted, and I'm gonna do a single loop. So it'll be a single loop frame. I'm gonna build the frame completely from scratch. Um, and it's gonna be some. I I think I drew it like I sketched it on CAD. I want to say it's gonna be up 10. I might go -2 with the neck, so I'm gonna bring the neck back towards the rider 2 inches instead of going out. so I can get like a swoop in the down tube, um, and a swoop in the back boom. I don't know. I want to do something like real curvy, like if you look at Jesse James built a bike. He built a bike with a frame he found at a swap meet.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
called the
yeah,
Gold
yeah.
Digger.
It was
The
turned
Gold Digger.
turned
Yeah,
way up, and the tank was almost like vertical.
yeah. And it's like a real swoopy frame. Like there's no straight lines on the frame. I think I want to do something along those lines, and it's definitely going to be long. Um, I'm thinking like maybe 38 or 40-degree rake, and I'm definitely well. The goal is to build my own sprayer or girder. So I'm gonna build the front end one way or another. I was even thinking fully rigid, like with a rigid front end too. Didn't you have a guest on that was talking about a full rigid?
Yeah, my buddy James Hawk, he should be at Glory Days too. He's from over there in New York. But yeah, he got his frame done by a Maltese machine, and he FaceTimed me the other day and was telling me about the bike that he's building, and it's so long it barely fits on his lift, and he had raised it up, and the sissy bar almost went through the ceiling of his shop.
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
I wanted to do a fully. I even did all the research on how to do a fully rigid, and like I want to bad, but I don't know. I don't know. I want to do it fully rigid, but I also want to build my own springer in the worst way now that I got my CNC and um, a lathe, a good lathe. So I don't know. I don't know what direction I'm gonna go, but it's gonna be long. It's gonna be tall, and it's gonna be twisted.
When are you planning on having it done?
I was actually invited to build one for Cycle Showcase St. Louis next year. That's
No shit.
Yeah, Beginner's Luck was actually in that last year. Big Randy runs it, and he's a great guy. I met him at the Smokeout. Speaking of the Smokeout, that's a great event in September that Cycle Source hosts in Salisbury, North Carolina, I think is the city. But that's a great. I mean, it's a 3-day chopper field party. Like it doesn't get more rowdy. It's a great time. But that's where I met Big Randy, and then I went out to Cycle Showcase St. Louis last February, and that's a great event. He really highlights the builders. He puts the bikes up on pedestals with like a blueprint under it, and he has somebody like load-ins Friday, so all the bikes go up on the pedestals, and he has a painter come in to hand write details about the builds under the bikes. Like it's really incredible. I highly suggest that one too.
But see, I just heard about that one, but it was this year. It was the same weekend as Mama Tried, so I kind of sucked. But hopefully next year it's they're on opposite weekends.
I don't even know what weekend it is, to be honest, but I want to say he says he always does it on Super Bowl weekend.
Okay.
I want to say February 11th and 12th, maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong. Yeah, I could
Yeah.
be totally wrong. I'm totally just talking out of my ass right now. But yeah, supposedly my next build's gonna be done for that. But I literally just ordered material, so I don't know.
So you're running behind already, is what you're saying?
Of course, yep, definitely. I am 100% running behind on the. I was actually I didn't want to name drop them because they're kind of pricks, but I was in a digital build off, I guess. The one California company did it. I won't name drop them, but they're pricks. I'll tell you that much because they sent me like you lost the what was it again called? I don't even remember what the build off was called, but like they were like shitty about it. So, but they're like a cafe style, so I knew I was gonna win, but I got third in that. But I came down to the day before the bike had to be done, and I was cheap when I rebuilt the carb. It was a CV40, and I bought a cheap rebuild kit, and like I couldn't get this thing to run to save my life. Like it would fire up, but as soon as you hit the gas, it would die. It would idle, but it wouldn't rev, and it was like it was starving for fuel. And I checked the float height about 100,000 times. Tried setting to the top of the spec, to the bottom of the spec, over the spec, under the spec. Tried everything, couldn't get it to run right, and I didn't think to um, measure anything else on the float other than the float height, and the float was actually dimensionally incorrect. So even though my float height was in spec, the dimensions of the float were different than stock. So it was starving for fuel. It was just getting enough just to get it running, but anytime you gave it gas and wanted to suck more fuel, it wasn't enough. So it was lean. So after I figured that out like literally the day before it had to be done, or else I would have been DQ'd. So yeah, I wait to the last minute. There's nothing like a deadline to get shit done.
Uh, I got 3 weeks to finish my build, and I have a bare frame sitting out in my garage right now. So
Oof.
yeah,
Hey, it's all right. It'll go together.
that's I work 4 10s usually, so I'm working half a day tomorrow, but I got all weekend. I should be able to make a pretty big dent in it.
Yeah. Well, I wish you luck. If you need any help and there's anything I could do for you, however many miles. Where are you even located?
Angola, Indiana. I'm about. You hop on the toll road right there. I'm probably like about 2 turns away from you. You hop on the turnpike, y'all call it over there, and heads all the way across to Ohio. It's a boring ass ride, and then it'll be the first exit in Indiana. Once you
Huh.
cross into Indiana, that's where I'm located at.
Yeah, I went to that PSI I was talking about earlier. I went to that school with a couple kids from Indiana. A lot of good guys from Indiana that I went to school with. I don't know anything about Indiana. I couldn't tell you if it's as big as Texas or as big as New Hampshire, to be honest. But
It's like you know how Pennsylvania, you got Pittsburgh on one end and Philadelphia on the other end.
yeah,
Okay, well, rotate that 90 degrees, and that's like Indiana. We're about 5 hours long and about 3 hours across.
huh?
And a lot of
Yeah,
cows and cornfields, man.
I didn't pay much attention in high school. I just wanted to work on shit. So
Right?
I know nothing about geography. But yeah, um, yeah. If you're ever out this way, definitely hit me up. Get a hold of me. Come down, hang out. More
Definitely.
than welcome.
So, what are your future plans, goals for your shop? You said you're not full time there, so it's just like a side hustle, kind of.
Yeah, it's just a side hustle. For now, I'm July 1st. Last month was 4 years for me. I've been in business. I launched July 1st, 2019, flipping those parts, and I have a lot of nice machines that I've kind of been reinvesting all my profit back into the company, which has helped me get all of my machines. And last year, I was, I mean, I was, I think at one point I was 20 to 25 weeks lead time, and I was still getting work. I mean, a ton of work. I I don't think I've ever turned down work, but I mean, people were more than happy to put a full deposit and still wait 20 weeks. So that was last year, and then this year I've kind of slowed down. I had some personal issues that were very expensive that I went through, and I just finished that all up. So I'm hoping to get back into getting busy with orders and all that again. And eventually the goal is to go full time. And do a little bit of everything. I got a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak. I do the machining, the manual machining, TIG welding, metal fab, anything metal fab. I do traditional blacksmithing if you want like a handrail or ornamental shit. I actually just got a 2x72 belt sander for knife making. I want to get into that. Um, I do powder coating in house. I do a little bit of everything. So I'm hoping that one day I have enough workflow that I could just say, I'm going full time. That's the goal.
I think that should be everyone's goal. Be your own boss, make your own money, not make someone else money.
Yep, I heard a saying a long time ago. I don't even remember where I heard it. I think an old Italian told me it. You build your own dreams, or somebody will hire you to build theirs. And
Absolutely.
that's kind of stuck with me. So I don't know. The dream for me has always been work for myself, because I don't know. I like the it's very rewarding when you get a nice paycheck from a job you did, or because you earned that 100%. Start to finish. I quoted the job. I bid it. I made the communication. I made the point of contact. I ordered the material. I figured out the process. I made the part, shipped it to the customer, and got paid. And it's very rewarding. It's humbling, and it is something that is fulfilling, but it also has its downfalls, because when you fuck up parts and you lose money on parts, you can only be mad at yourself. So,
Right. Yep. It's all on you then.
yep. But the uh the challenge and the gratification behind it is something that I think a lot of people, if you have the slightest idea of a goal for a business and you think it'll actually make money, I think you should go for it. Why not, right?
Right. Well, that was my next question. Any advice for aspiring blacksmith, machinists, or bike builders?
I would say just go for it. I would say yes, you're gonna mess up. I mean, I've ruined hundreds of feet of material. Just twisting, being OCD, I didn't like how the twist turned out. I twisted it the wrong way and I scrapped it. But you're gonna make mistakes, but I think you should go for it. I think no matter what you want to do, if you want to do a full build, I mean, obviously do your research, be safe about it. And if you have a Harbor Freight buzz box, I probably wouldn't suggest welding on something that you could die if the weld breaks. But I mean, I'm completely self-taught. Like I never went to school for welding. I never TIG welded until I owned a TIG welder. I just practiced and practiced, spent a lot of time under the hood, and now I'm a full-time TIG welder. I mean, I TIG weld parts for Westinghouse Nuclear and MSA Mine Safety. So as long as you're dedicated and you want to go for it, just set your sights on what you want and go for it. And as far as blacksmithing, you can start blacksmithing with, like, if you get a piece of railroad track, that's hard metal. You can make an anvil out of it. They're all over YouTube. And you can make a coal fired forge out of a brake drum off like a big truck. Like, you can get into blacksmithing very, very cheap. And even if you wanted to get into a propane forge, I think Devil's Forge is the company. They're out of Lithuania. They're on eBay. But you can literally get a propane forge for about the same price you could build a propane forge for. And I highly suggest it. If you have the uh slightest idea to see what it's like to pound on steel and blacksmith or twist steel or do anything, I mean, there's a ton of videos on YouTube. I always have people forge just a coat hook, because it's functional, and like you can learn a lot of aspects of blacksmithing just forging a coat hook, and it'll look cool. You can forge a taper on it. You could scroll the end. You forge a hook. You could twist it. You paint it flat and hot punch a hole in it. Hang it on your wall. You'll hang your coat on it or your helmet on it. You'll look at it every day and you'll be like, I made that. And it's very fulfilling. I think everybody should do it if you got a the slightest interest in it. Either hit me up and you could come pound on my steel for free, or spend a couple $100 and get into it at home. Like I'm all for it. And if anybody has any questions on anything I do, feel free to hit me up. I might suck and take a day or two to get back to you, but I will get back to you no matter what, and I will answer any question I can.
Well, yeah, man. I appreciate you being very, very generous with your time, and glad our schedules finally were able to sync up, get you on here.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I appreciate your patience. My life is so busy. Like it's hard to believe that I'm awake. Honestly, I don't sleep much. I work way too much, but hey, I'll rest when I'm dead. That's all.
right. All right, man. Well, plug your shit, and then I'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, like I said, I'm Steel City Blacksmithing on all social media. My website's Steel City Blacksmithing, and like I said, if you have any questions about bikes or blacksmithing, welding, machining, anything, hit me up. And if it's not something I could explain quickly in a text, I'll give you my personal cell phone number, and I'll talk to you whenever I can. So anything anybody needs, I'm happy to help. And if I don't know how to do something, I'm sure I could point you in the right direction. So
You got a
uh,
YouTube channel?
I don't have a YouTube. I need to get into video, but the my problem is a lot of times I don't know how something's gonna work out. I kind of just wing it and make it up as I go. So by the time I figure out what I'm doing and setting up a camera, I have done videos before. Set up a camera and then edit the video and post the video. It's just a whole nother thing that I'd rather just work. But fortunately, my girlfriend, she's into it, and she wants to help me promote it and get into the video aspect of things. So hopefully here soon, maybe I'll have video or YouTube aspect.
Yeah, that'd be killer, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff that I do, even though I don't really know how it's going to work out, I could still show people how to work with what you got and fix mistakes and make everything work out in the end. So I think even though I'm kind of like embarrassed that like I don't have it all figured out, I think the problem solving aspect, I think that could be useful too to show people. So I'm
But
definitely for it.
I mean, that's not a bad thing to show that, you know, too many people get on there and try to pretend like they're the experts, but you don't see is there's 10 fucked up parts behind them that they fucked up before they got that one good one, and now they're acting like, oh, I did this the first time, and I'm just so fucking good. And yeah, that's not real life.
Yeah,
That's
no, it's definitely not. I think I mean uh, I still mess up parts of work, and like I'm machining for I mean 8 to 10 hours a day every day for years now, and like I still mess up in my shop. Like I just messed up 3 out of 10 hooks today that I was making for a PPG. Like it happens, but you just gotta you can't get frustrated and just be like, well, I fucked up. I'm done. You gotta look at it like, all right, well, all right, I fucked up this part, but what did I do wrong to fuck it up? How do I not do that again? And if the part is savable, how can I hand work it or compensate for my mistake to still make a good part? So like I said with my bike, like I didn't have the chain clearance, but I figured out if I took 90 or 95 thou off the back of the front sprocket, I could suck it in and give myself clearance on both sides, and it worked out. So problem solving, that's all it is.
absolutely. So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on here and being very, very generous with your time. God, we almost went 2 hours. Holy shit.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate you having me on. It's very it's an honor. It's humbling, and more than happy to come on anytime you want. So I'm always happy to shoot the shit.
Well, hell yeah. I'd love to have you back on again sometime.
Yeah, maybe after the next build, or if you ever come down for a weekend, maybe we'll do a live one. We'll like
Oh, that'd
forge
be
live.
sweet.
Like, why not?
Yeah. Like, I'll get a hold of you here in a bit. We'll talk about glory days and see what you got going on that weekend.
Oh yeah, that sounds great to me, man.
All right, buddy. Well, get some sleep, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
See you later.
Later.